Right, continuing the discussion of romantic relationships in adulthood, we got to talk about divorce. Some people do get divorced, all right, and let's see, one third of first marriages do end in divorce, and we're focusing on Western, particularly United States statistics, and so one-third of first marriages, and the odds of divorce increase with subsequent marriages. And you might have heard that the rates of divorce have decreased in recent decades, and it also, and I mentioned this in a previous video, I believe, it also corresponds with an increase in the age of first marriage. And so we do wonder if those two things are related, that maybe people are waiting until they are more ready, they figure themselves out, maybe they're a bit more mature when they are getting married, and we don't know for certain, but we do see that coincidence, that correlation, that correspondence is there. And so if it's not your first marriage, the risk of divorce is higher. And again, I'm not going to explain these statistics for this survey course. I just want you to be familiar with these statistics. And divorce is most likely in the first 5 to 7 years of a relationship. You get past that hump, your rate does seem to go down. And in fact, the first year, divorce rates are particularly high, or divorce risk is particularly high in the first year of a marriage. A lot of people get divorced fairly quick. They realize fairly quickly, oh, this is not a good idea. Now, what about the consequences of divorce? Going through a divorce. Sometimes people will go into a divorce sort of with romanticized notions like everything's going to be better and I'm going to be free. And it kind of depends on what the relationship was like before the divorce. If the relationship was truly miserable, divorce usually does improve your situation, your satisfaction. But if the relationship was just not as great as it once was, sometimes you will see that mental health or satisfaction will be less after a divorce. And one of the reasons is that sometimes people don't consider how many practical inconveniences and hassles come along with divorce. A big one is income or finances, and financial hassles, the cut to finances, cut to income and finances usually affects women in a divorce. And a lot of the research is on opposite sex couples, husband-wife couples. We don't have a lot of good data. We don't have as much data for same-sex couples. But so women suffer more than women. Women suffer more than men. They often have a great reduction in income and finances, and it can be very stressful. And then other sources of stress are, having to move if there are children involved, figuring out custody issues, just figuring out who gets what. And there's usually a fight, at least a legal battle to figure out who gets what. And legal fees can be very expensive. Sometimes people do not anticipate those aspects, those elements. And we often see that with men, they will miss the intimacy. Women are more struck by how many extra hassles and just extra stuff they have to do to just stay functioning, especially right after a divorce. Let's see. Oh, another issue with divorce is friendship and family ties. You often make friends as a couple, and then you get a divorce. Do you still get to keep all of those friends that knew you as a couple? Sometimes there is that particularly devastating loss of losing friends that you met through your partner, and now you're like, well, I liked them, but it's weird for you to keep contact with them because they are essentially your partner's friend. And then family members, your in-laws. You might have gotten along very well with, your mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law. You might have been aunt or uncle so-and-so to these wonderful children in the family, and then you're like, oh, well, do I get to see them grow up now that I'm divorced? I'm not aunt so-and-so anymore. Can be quite sad. Some individuals are like, I really liked my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. Do I not get to have that interaction with them anymore? That can lead to a lot of, a loss, a loss with actual grief in some situations. Now, let's see. Okay. Yep. All right. So I said the stuff that you need to know for the lifespan course. All right. And then next video, we'll start talking about friends and friend type relationships in adulthood.